Hi guys, sorry about the airplane noise. I've been waiting for this guy like 20 minutes now, doing the longest run-up of all time. Just want to give an update what's going on with the first flight. I know a lot of you guys are asking. I was waiting for the propeller blade. I actually have all three now that match, so I'm going to try the 3-blade today. Did a couple run-ups with the 2-blade. I'm going to try that out. The other thing that was a bit of a hang-up is I ran into a couple little minor things we needed to change on the suspension tail. So right now I'm back to the leaf spring and a Matco 8.5-inch setup, and I'm going to run that for now. There's just a couple little things we need to tweak for the Kitfox application on the other suspension. Other than that, we did a run-up yesterday and data logged it. Then I sent that off to Brian Dacus. He took a look at it and was real happy with the way the engine performed. Said we're good to go, ready for the first flight. So it's been fine-tuning a couple things, working on that today. Tomorrow I hope to load it up on the trailer again and take it over to Reading Municipal. I've got a hangar available over there for the next 4 or 5 days, and I hope tomorrow, weather permitting and everything working out over there, to go ahead and do the first flight tomorrow. So part of my taxi tests are breaking in the brake pads on the Beringer wheels and brakes. So in order to accomplish this, the braking procedure includes a 1,500 foot power application while putting light brake pressure. And that's what I'm doing here as I go down the runway, breaking those brake pads in. Once you complete that, then you want to go about 35 miles an hour and then apply the brakes, not full pressure, down to about 5 miles per hour. Do that twice, and then go back and do a run-up and see if you can hold the airplane at run-up power. If not, you repeat the process again. So now I'm going to go ahead and taxi down the runway, applying power, raise the tail a little bit, just see how the airplane feels as I increase the speed in the taxi. I'm not going to get airborne here. I'm just going to kind of get light on the wheels. Apply some power, then back off, and apply some more power, lift the tail, and just see how it feels. Alright, I couldn't resist here. I had to take off just a little bit. I did note that the controls were very heavy, left to right especially. So that's one of the things I'm going to have to look at. Alright, so, I couldn't resist. During the taxi test, I had to just take off and fly a little bit. So technically, today's the 17th of April, first flight of 292 Papa Kilo. Boy, it is way different than my Model 5. Definitely more tail. Well, I guess my 5 was just nose heavy, but it really feels like there's a different attitude when you're in flight. It seems to pitch up and down a lot more sensitive. Other than that, did the brake pad break-in for the Beringers, got that done. The 3-blade prop at the same pitch as the 2-blade prop obviously brought the RPM way down. Went from 9,600 down to 8,600, so I lost 1,000 RPM on the engine by going with the 3-blade. So I need to take some pitch out of that if I'm going to fly with those, if I want to get that higher RPM. That being said, at 8,600 RPM, it takes off in like 150 feet without trying to get off the ground. It accelerates amazingly. The power is just, there's tons of power here, guys. It's very impressive. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna push it in and I'm gonna pop the cow off, the front cow off, and take a look, because I ran it for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes or something. So I want to get a good look at the engine and then go from there and decide whether I'm gonna go ahead and take it down or take it over to the other airport, or whether I'm gonna do some work on it tomorrow to get that stuff ready. Other than that, the other thing I was really concerned about is the muffler, and it just doesn't get hot, guys. I just shut down and I can grab this. I think the airflow over here is really preventing the heat from having an issue here at all. I can tell you in the cockpit it's not that loud. That muffler's not bad. I did have the dB meter in there, and on takeoff it was 112, which is in the range, I guess, of some of the louder ones. But I think even Rotex 915 gets like 110 on takeoff. So, I didn't run it very long at high RPM, so we'll see. But I'm gonna go ahead and push it in, take a look at everything, get a good look on it, and decide what I'm gonna do tomorrow. But that was technically the first flight, even though it was just flying down the runway for 1,000 feet and then putting it back down. I did it over and over again, probably 4 or 5 times, and it's exciting. It flies. So, other than that, it's a Kitfox. Feels like a Kitfox. It just feels a lot different than my other Kitfox because of the weight distribution, and then the stiff control. So I'm gonna look into that. We'll figure that out. All right, guys. So I did inspect the control linkage and everything, and I had a suspicion that maybe the autopilot servos were causing that extra drag. And it turned out that I needed to lube all the flaperon hinges, which is something you should do right from the get-go, and that removed all the excess friction, and then it felt fine.
I gave a thumbs up on that one, so we're thinking we got the RPM up where it needs to be, 9,500 or so. Lifts off quick. We'll see. I think he might make a pattern. Well, he made a left traffic pattern call. Let's see if this is it. Nice, buddy. Made it to the first taxiway. Woo!
So after that last run, when I pulled off the taxiway, I got a little vibration in the engine, and so we were inspecting it here and found that one of the spark plugs went bad. Brian Dacus came down from Reno, kind of surprised me, and just jumped in and started helping. He also helped with the tune on the engine. It was really awesome to have him there with his expertise on this engine and helping troubleshoot everything. So we got busy figuring that out. We swapped the coils, then swapped the plugs, and found it was a plug. So we went and got some new ones, and it was good to go. So when we finished that up, we went ahead and did a couple more runs. Alright, so with the taxi tests and the first quick flight done here at Benton, I felt more comfortable moving over to the bigger airport where there's more opportunity for off-airport emergency landing than there is here around Benton. Benton's fairly congested with residential areas all the way around. Especially after seeing that spark plug go bad, I just think it's a good idea to go over to the other airport to continue the flight testing. So we're loading it on the trailer and moving it on over to the other airport. Guys, so I moved the plane again. We're now at Reading Municipal for the phase 2 of the testing. The taxi tests and the first flight are over. Now we need to get longer flights. Again, heart's racing from trailering. It's stressful. Have your baby out on the road with other people. It's much safer at an airport. I almost just flew it over here just to save myself the trip, but there you have it. Let me borrow on this hangar for my buddy Chad. Thanks, Chad, for letting me use your hangar. And go ahead and get it off the trailer here. All right, guys, so here we are at Reading Municipal. Got it off the trailer. I didn't film that just because I'm a one-man show today. The trailer is set up so you can do it with one guy. I put a new winch on it, and that allows me to winch in and out. The old winch, 1, wasn't strong enough. 2, didn't have the ability to run the motor backwards and let it down slowly. And I really didn't like that. Thanks for all the suggestions you guys gave about using the pulley to double up the power on that one. But really I wanted the ability to winch in and out. So I got a 3,500 pound ATV winch. It's all wired up with its own battery on the trailer. It worked real good. Got the plane in there in the hangar. My buddy Chad's let me borrow the hangar for the week. It's pretty good today weather-wise, but it's just really hot, and I'm worn out. So after yesterday and loading this up and unloading it and everything, I'm gonna put it away for today, head home and decompress a little bit. It's been kind of a stressful day already. Catch up on some stuff at home. Can't devote all my time this week to this. I got some other stuff I got going on too. But for the most part, we're all set up to continue the flight. Testing. All right, this is the first official real flight. The other one was a flight too, but I'm gonna try to get a little bit of length out of this one. So we are at Reading Municipal Airport. Now Reading ground experimental 292 Papa Kilo is at the West Hangars with a request with Yankee.
Experimental 292 Papa Kilo, ready ground, go ahead.
Yeah, 292 Papa Kilo, this is the first flight of an experimental. I'd like to let you know my intentions.
Go ahead, sir, I'm ready to copy.
Yeah, I'd like to taxi to active runway and climb out and enter a pattern and then climb to 3,000 feet and orbit the airport.
Experimental 292 Papa Kilo, ground, that'll be no problem at all. Runway 34, taxi V Alpha.
Taxi V Alpha for 292 Papa Kilo. All right, we're going to do this. All right, Reading Tower, 292 Papa Kilo at 34, ready for takeoff.
Experimental 292 Papa Kilo, Reading Tower, did you want to fly straight out to climb to your requested altitude of 3,000, or if you want to make right-hand orbits in the climb over the field, that'll be approved with me, sir, whatever you want.
Yeah, we'll do right-hand orbits, and I'll probably try to keep it within gliding distance.
Experimental 292 Papa Kilo, roger, sir. All runways will be available. Make right traffic up to 3,000. Runway 34, wind calm, cleared for takeoff.
34, clear for takeoff, 292 Papa Kilo. All right, just got a little rush of adrenaline. It's good. That's what that's about, right? Doing all this. Seatbelts on. Got my helmet's fastened. Flaps are set to first notch. All right, guys. Here we go. Alright, we're climbing 1,000 feet a minute at 82 miles an hour. That is really loud. I've got almost full forward trim. I still smell coolant. Pull it back to about 50%. Still climbing. About 1,000 feet a minute at 77. Oil temps 216. Okay, so my indicated's 85, ground speed's 85, true airspeed's 89. Still climbing at 500 feet a minute at 86 miles an hour. Oil temp still coming up, it's 232. see that oil temperature stop climbing. Holding a little bit of right rudder in the climb. Got just a slight tendency to turn left, very slight. Oil's up to 243. We may have to call it here if that keeps going up. All right, there's our 3,000 feet. Let's bring the power back to a 8,000 RPM setting. All right, we're now at 250 on the oil. That's just too high. I don't know what's going on with the oil. Now keep in mind where we put the sensor on that is coming off the engine before the oil cooler. So that's as hot as the oil is going to be in the system is where we're measuring it. It's still going up. Coolant temperatures are really low. Not getting any more coolant smell. So what's interesting about this engine is that there's a lot of power for takeoff, but there's not a lot of power for cruise. I'm pulled all the way back to 8,000. That's 50% horsepower right now, so I'm running about 80 horse. So it's giving me a cruise speed of right about...
Cherokee 8731 Echo is on left downwind for 34.
88, 89, let's see here, let's level it off here, see what it gives me. About 87. At 50% power. I'd take it up higher,
Cherokee 8731 Echo Tower extend.
but the oil temperature, I don't like where it's at, so I'm going to make sure that levels out first.
Fox 1984 contact tower when ready.
Alright, so 75% horsepower, about 8,600 RPM. What you'd like to see out of like a Lycoming or something for cruise. Up to 94.
Left on runway 30, taxi to parking via Lima, remain this frequency. Have a nice day.
Oil's kind of settled in the 250 range when I was at 8,000. Now it's going up even higher again when I increase the RPM.
Fox 1984, if you'd like flight following up to Montague, Oakland Center 132.
Let's see what the RPM will do.
Have a good morning.
So at full power, I'm at over 110 miles an hour now.
Jumper 61, ready ground. Good morning, runway 34, taxi via Delta, cross runway 12.
So it will go over 100 if you put the coals to it. Now I'm almost 270 on the oil temp. So I'm going to bring it way back, see if I can get it to cool. But it's not an air cool oil temperature. So I may have to call it here and bring it in. I think that's a wise choice, guys. I don't want to get too hot and wreck the engine. And tower 292 Papa Kilo, the down one for 34. We'd like to make this approach for landing at 34 for full stop.
Channel 292 Papa Kilo, tower, thanks sir. Runway 34, wind calm, clear to land.
34, clear to land. The plane flies great. Guys, the engine's what I'm kind of messing around with right now, but I haven't talked much about the flight characteristics. It's very stable, flies hands off pretty much. There's just a slight drift off to the left. Actually, it's gone now. It probably has to do with the engine power. Make sure we're within gliding distance here. Airspeed seems to be right in correlation with the ground speed. Got about 30 minutes or so. Let's see what the hub said on that. Yeah, we're about 40-minute flight. Some flaps. Trim. So idling it brought the temperature back down. That's good. We're back down to 244. It's just not like thermal getaway there.
Reading tower, helicopter 7 Golf Hotel on station, headed to the northwest. Helicopter 7 Golf Hotel, roger.
Alright, full flaps.
Reading tower, jumper 61, ready to go 34, be a right turnout. We'll be working about 12 miles to the northeast.
Jumper 61, reading tower, copy, I'll hold short, runway 34.
Moving short 34, jumper 61.
Experimental 292, Pop Kilo, say park.
Yeah, we'll go with the west hangars.
Roger that, left turn runway 30, taxi to parking via 30 Lima, remain in straight.
Alright, taxi via 30 in Lima for 2 Pop Kilo. Alright guys, so the results of that first flight, pretty good. The concern is the oil temperature. Save this, send it to Brian on the data log. Plane flies really nice. Needs a little bit more down trim than I thought it would. Alright. Alright guys, so I just finished the first long duration flight other than just doing a quick pattern. Went pretty good. The plane flies great. We fixed all the leak issues. No problems with the spark plugs, like I had that one bad spark plug on the first go around. I do still have the high oil temperature problem. So I talked about that in flight on the camera. So we're gonna troubleshoot that. So until I do that, I'm not gonna fly it again. Obviously we don't wanna ruin the engine by getting it too hot. So it's interesting, even with the oil that hot, the coolant temperature is very low. It's like 160. So this radiator is definitely doing its job with the coolant. It's just the heat exchanger is not doing its job with the oil. So we need to troubleshoot why that's happening. So that's the result of today's flight. So I'm gonna go get some supplies so I don't make a mess here in my friend's hangar. I'll put some plastic down, get some buckets, get some more coolant and some more oil in case I have to drain both, and then I'll get to work on that. All right guys, so the first week of flight testing is done. A couple things we're working on is only one thing really is the oil temperature. It's still getting a little warm. So what I did was flush the system out. I checked the flow through the heat exchanger, make sure there was no restrictions in there, also through the cabin heater. What we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and disconnect the cabin heater and run the heat exchanger directly back to the thermostat like it's supposed to. and eliminate that circuit. So if there's any restriction in that, I also blew air through there and it didn't seem like there's any restriction. All right, guys, I'm sitting in my car because my hangar neighbor over here has probably been listening to me talk to the camera all day, and I feel like a dork. So doing it in the car. Airplane's right there. Flight testing first week is done, man. Thank you for your patience on this video. I know it took a while to get out, and that's just because we had the prop blade to wait for, work, weather, all this stuff that came up. So I hope to edit this tomorrow and get it posted the next day. So, I mean, it's the 22nd today. So I'm trying to be as current as possible with this thing. I know you guys are wondering, like, hey, when are you going to fly it? When are you going to fly it? It has flown. I'm up to about 2.5 hours on it now. Did about 2 of that today. The other half hour was running up and down the runway at the other airport, and then the one pattern flight I did. So far, really good results. This engine is just a whole different flying experience. I'll get more into it and explain more about it as I get into more of the flight testing, but it's just kind of a different experience. The RPM is unusual, and then the Sprag clutch creates some characteristics that are both good, have pros and cons to it. So so far, you know, I'm trying to get used to it. The takeaway so far is that there's incredible power for takeoff. I have found, though, that power isn't available for cruise. It's there, but if you were to run it that hard, I just don't know that the engine would last, you know, as long as we want it to. It seems like running it, you know, up in the 9,000 just seems like it's screaming. So that 8,000 RPM range on the engine seems a lot more comfortable. It's quieter in the cockpit. You're burning under 5 gallons an hour. You're doing about 85, 90, so you still got a decent cruise. You can take it up and go 117 at full throttle with it, but you're burning a ton of gas. I found a 75% power settings right around 9,300 RPM, something like that. 9,000 somewhere in there. I can't remember exactly what the RPM range was. I was burning about 7 gallons an hour to get just over 103 miles an hour. So it'll do it, and your cost is fuel and, you know, just running the engine harder. But it really likes to run right 8 to 85. It's much more comfortable there. So I found at 65% power, with the way it's pitched right now, I found it right about 80. It was about 8,500 RPM, and it was a nice 90. I think it was like 96 miles per hour. So that's not bad, you know. There's some fairings that need to go on the wing struts. There's other things that will clean it up a little bit to go maybe a little bit faster, but that's where it's at. I was hoping that with the extra horsepower, that horsepower would be available to cruise at like 125 horsepower, somewhere in there. It's just not. That's not, and that's why this engine's not really appropriate to replace larger 180 horsepower, 150 horsepower engines, because it is there for takeoff. It's not there for cruise. You're cruising more in the range of 50% of the power, so you're right there, pretty similar to what a Rotax 912 UOS can cruise at. Now, there is the reserve there. If you do need it, like you're getting in a big downdraft and you need to climb out of it, boom, you can hit it and you got your 150 horsepower. I just don't know that you're going to want to run it that hard all the time to get that higher horsepower out of it. It just seems, you have to experience it, because when you're running it, you just know that you're running it. It seems to me you're running it too hard. So that's my takeaway so far. Gobs of horsepower for takeoff. Man, it leaps off the ground. When I had it pitched back at 13.5, I don't think we were even making 100 feet before it was airborne. I counted on one of the takeoffs and I got to 4 and it was off the ground. So 1, 2, 3, 4 airborne. So, you know, it's no Steve Henry's 300 horsepower, you know, 14-foot takeoff, but I wasn't trying either. It was, you know, I'm not going to match him even if I do try, but I wasn't trying to get it off as quick as I could. It flew off at 4 seconds on its own without, you know, pulling any angle of attack, and it's flying off the ground at like 36 miles an hour indicated, which is below the stall speed. So yeah, I don't want to keep taking clips trying to do a short one here, but my takeaway on it is so far it's just really an interesting plane to fly. It's a new experience. The airplane part of it flies like a Kitfox. The balance, I think, is much better on this plane than it was on my Model 5 with the Lycoming. I found that the trim range, you're using that middle portion of the trim instead of the full up trim all the time, so you're not nose heavy. I actually use down trim for climb out, especially when you have all the power in. You got to trim it down a little bit. And some of those things can be worked out by maybe positioning the engine a little bit different with the engine mount, take away some of the, some of the tendencies for the different attitude changes with power. But that's stuff that, we need to work out in this is the first time this engine's been on this airplane with this engine mount, so that's just something we're working through. Basically, I'm going to keep at it. I got to try to figure out this oil temperature issue that I'm fighting. The stuff I did today didn't seem to resolve it. It did bring it down from where it was this morning, which is good, but it's still not the same as what other people are seeing. So next thing we'll do is we'll pull the actual sensors and replace those and see if we're getting the same indications. My feeling is it is a correct indication. You can see how hot that the oil tank reservoir is. I think we are just getting warm. It's not too hot. It's just hotter than other people are seeing. Today wasn't particularly warm. It was about 72 today. So, when it gets up to 100 to 110 here, I don't want to have problems with cooling my oil. And it shouldn't have that problem with a water-cooled engine, and it actually uses the coolant to cool the oil. It shouldn't have that issue. They should be much closer between the coolant temperature and the oil temperature. It should be within 30 degrees, and it's about 60 to 90 degrees difference right now. So that's what I'll be working on. Once that's solved, I'll probably take it back to the other airport because everything else feels good, and I'm ready to start going up and doing the actual flight testing portion where you're doing finding your stalls, playing with the glide, doing your different profile stalls and speeds, and getting all my parameters set at different weights. So there's a lot of stuff to still do in that 40 hours. That's why we have that 40-hour fly off, and I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for watching, guys. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification if you want to notified when I post the next video, and leave a comment. Thanks for watching.